Okay, with that, we will call our meeting to order. 6 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Lise, do we have roll call?
Here.
Here.
Dan Songway.
Here.
And Glenn Beecher.
Here.
And Mike Womack is not present.
Has everybody had time to review last month's board minutes? We will take a motion to approve on 3.1 minutes from the August 19th regular board meeting. A second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and then we have an approval of our September 16th agenda, 3.2. Everything looks good to me.
That's the question.
Go ahead.
When I looked through here, I saw some of these on here that we had already adopted last month. Why are they on here?
Yeah, we should under on the new business on the updates.
There was a couple on here, and of course I left my papers at home. That
Are you talking about the old business?
yeah,
Yeah, it shouldn't be. If we approve them, they shouldn't be on here.
okay, that's what I thought. But I thought that EBB was one that we approved last month.
Actually, I was checking on that. It wasn't.
It wasn't
No,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
maybe my eyes good. Okay, and then we're good. All right. This question.
Okay, all that looks good. How about a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda for this meeting, September 16th.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed? Brings us to 4.0 public comment. Any public comment signed up? Okay. All that for nothing. Okay, 5.0. Financial report, Tammy.
What is that?
Do you have any questions? Is this one you'd like me to do this?
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect timing. Yeah. And I will just unplug this and hopefully it. Move it over to you here.
Find out if it records.
Well, I hope so.
That's very good.
Just you can't see it on a little bit there.
So I thought I'd give just a brief explanation about the state school fund and the timber revenue. And I just threw this together like this afternoon, so it's not exactly in detail. But I just thought it was kind of important because Mr. Peterson is going to be talking about some important information later this evening. So I just thought this might help to either refresh everyone or give everybody kind of a foundation for timber revenue. So Clatsop County follows ORS 530.115. It reads in part, letter B is what I'm going to jump to, 25%. Okay, I guess I should back up. So when a sale of timber happens in Clatsop County, this is kind of how we are allocated that money. 25% of the remainder of the money shall be credited and paid into the county school fund created under ORS 328.005, the county school fund. Letter C, the remainder of the money shall be the county prorated and apportioned to the various taxing districts in which the lands are situated in the proportion that the rate of tax levy in each district as shown by the tax levy filed with the assessor for the last year in process of the collection bears to the total rate of the tax levy of all such taxing bodies for such year. So to make that a little simplified, when a timber sale happens in Clatsop County, the revenue is allocated according to this. 36.5% of that revenue stays with the state forestry. 63.5% of that revenue is distributed to Clatsop County. 10% is for county expenses, like their overhead. 1% is for law enforcement of the timber codes. And 25% is the county school fund based on ADM, average daily membership, kind of our enrollment. So that's what the letter B in the previous slide was talking about. The remaining revenue is distributed to the taxing districts in which the timber sale occurred. So Jewel School District, we are taxing districts 801, 802, and sometimes 803. We have a little bit of 803. You can go on to the Oregon Department of Forestry's website, and you can really dial down and find all of the sales, and you can look for our taxing districts, and you can kind of see what sales are out there for our taxing districts. Once a sale happens for timber, a logging company has 3 years to log that. And we can get that money. This revenue can come anytime in that 3-year period. It can all come up front. It can be dispersed throughout. It all can come at the end. We don't know. And the logging companies use a lot of different, there's a lot of different factors that go into when they're going to decide to log. And so when we get the revenue, this is how it's allocated to us. So this is a chart that I did. Every quarter we get taxing receipts that show how much money was deposited into our state pool accounts. And so I kind of wanted to break this down because this might come to be important later. Jewel's in there in the middle, and I apologize, I thought the blue would actually stand out more, but it's more difficult to read. So Jewel, our state timber revenue is much greater than our county timber allocation. And that's not the case in any other school district. So just to kind of mold that around in your state timber revenue is considered local revenue for the purposes of the state school fund formula. It is subtracted from the amount of state school fund that a district is allocated. If the revenue received from timber revenue falls below the amount that would be allocated to a district, the state school fund is adjusted. If the revenue received from local revenue exceeds the state school fund allocation, a district is able to retain the excess. And that's what we've been able to do. So if we go back to this, we can go on to ODE's website, and we could see what each one of these school districts is allocated for their state school fund. And if their revenue from state or the county timber falls below what they would be allocated for the state school fund, then their state school fund is adjusted down. They still get the payments from the county just like we do, but their state school fund is adjusted down.
These are based off of quarters, is that correct?
Quarters, yeah. And I started putting this together, and so our last timber revenue is at the top. What we received for our last quarter.
But ours isn't adjusted down.
Ours is not adjusted down because it's in excess of what we would receive for the state school fund.
Which is why we don't receive any state school funding. Because it exceeds it quite a bit. So we get to keep all that. If it falls beneath that, then the state fills in what we wouldn't get.
Are we able to get a copy of all these slides? That'd be super helpful.
Sure. Yeah. So this might become important for the conversation.
So what is state school funding right now per child? You know?
I do not know that. I
Not-
could find that out, but I think it's right around somebody in another meeting I was just at. I think it's right around 9,000 or 10,000.
The state's giving us
Per year or per quarter?
That's a good question too. I'm learning all about the state school fund. So that is a good question. I
What
will
was the
find out.
dollar amount again?
For what?
Per student, roughly?
8 to 10.
8 to 10,000?
But, and there's a lot that goes into the state school fund formula, a lot that goes into it. So students are weighted differently. And so we get different weights for different students based on IEPs, based on poverty, based on English as a second language.
teacher experiences.
Yeah, we get teacher experience. There's also a little pile of money that's put into the state school fund formula for small schools, and we do fall into that, but it doesn't impact us at all.
I believe state school fund is per year per student.
What is that?
The state school fund is per year per student.
Per year per student?
We have a guesstimation of if we go to state school fund, what will be. We'll get there when we get to the HCP of what they're projecting for us for next year.
And that's a difficult number because it changes
Correct.
per ADM. And so every year, every fall, all districts have to do a estimate of membership and revenue report that goes to the state. And that's what we believe we're going to have for our student population and what we believe we're going to get for our revenue. And that's how the state school fund formula kind of starts getting calculated. And so for like a neighboring school district that I know, they, not on here, they also receive state school fund or state timber revenue. And their state timber revenue was a lot less because they had not really heard about the HCP. And kind of when that first happened, we kind of saw some quarters really take a hit. That could be why, we don't know really, but they really saw their state timber decrease. And so they don't have a reserve. And so they had to contact the state to open up their estimate of membership and revenue collection to readjust that. So then they could get more money from the state because they weren't getting it from the timber revenue.
I apologize, but what establishes how much you get from state timber versus county timber, and why are there so much difference between us and everybody else?
It's based on ADM, their average daily membership of students and how they're all weighted. So we are a small school district, and so that is why we have so much less, because we're all part of that 25%. That's from the one in green, the county timber revenue, is from letter B here. 25% of the remainder of the money shall be credited and paid into the county school fund created under ORS 328.005. So that.
Well, what about the state timber?
Well, that's because of our location of how much we're able to harvest within our just spot area.
Oh, I guess the
Yeah.
word county is throwing me off. I'm like, did we not get timber from our county? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So letter C, and it's kind of easier on this slide. The remaining revenue
Okay.
is distributed to the taxing district in which the timber sale occurred. And so since a lot of timber sales happen
Nice.
in the jewels, and I don't know where, like,
We
I've
used to have
tried
a
to
map.
figure that out.
Yeah.
Do we have a map?
We used to have a map. I know I've seen a map showing our district boundaries for the timber, which is the bulk of the state, the county owned
Mhm.
timberland.
Well,
State
like when
managers.
you get a woodcut permit, then you get the map and it's all right.
Well, yeah. Well, most of the
It's all
sales
here.
are out here. Yeah. Well, they used to be.
Yeah, it used to be.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that made some,
Okay.
it gets a little confusing.
And these are things, we feel like if we're, we talked about that. This is something we present to the board or whoever's watching and whatnot, but at the same time, as we're going through this, and I'll be upfront and say, I think this is where we're headed. I mean, this is where I believe we're headed with everything that's been happening the last 2 to 3 weeks. We need to be very comfortable with these conversations. And if we don't understand them, just like the position I'm in, I didn't expect this to happen 2 years ago, asking questions, lots of questions, because that's how we're going to be able to maneuver through some of this as we get going. And you talked about that, the estimation, whatever that was called, for the membership for the ADM. I mean, this is all new for us. Luckily, Tammy has communications with all the business managers across the area. So we at least have some knowledge around that area. So we're not going into this blind. But we will have quite a bit more discussions with people to help us through if this is the future of where we're headed for the district.
And you can go on to Oregon ODE's finance page and you can look at what all the different districts are allocated.
Mhm.
You can also look to see how much they were, how much they received from state school fund. It's kind of interesting. And just so we understand on here, it is Corey and I believe that Jewel and Seaside are the only two school districts in Clatsop County that it would affect if timber revenue went away. Because all of the other school districts get their money made up,
You're talking county timber
and the state.
and okay.
And the state, because what they're receiving in timber revenue, the combination of state timber and county revenue,
That's right.
county timber, falls below what they would be allocated for the state school fund. Seaside also receives extra money from, I believe, lodging tax. They are also not a part of the state school fund formula.
Thank you, Tammy.
Okay. Was there any questions to the financial credit card checklist things? I think we're good there then.
There's a lot of roofing going on.
Yeah.
For the- Two houses we have, yeah.
2 houses. Okay.
Is that essentially 2 roofs?
Yeah, for the 2 houses behind the district. And still planning to get these 2 done before this summer, before everything hits for the district. So we can keep the longevity of our properties on campus here.
Bring us the 6.0 principal report.
Okay, I want to make sure that you all can hear me. It looks like we have finally turned on the speaker.
Mhm.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Have you heard me for last year?
Yeah,
In these board meetings? Did it sound like it last month? It didn't sound like you all could hear me that
It
well.
was hard to hear. Yeah.
And then you realize I never turn on the microphone. But anyway, just making sure you all can hear me. Yeah, we're into the school year, the 24-25 school year. So far, things are going smoothly. Outside of the sickness that is running through our school right now, from students to a lot of staff, that COVID going around. And so we've had to make some adjustments. Some staff have stepped up and are moving into different positions this week and really helping us out. But so outside of the seasonal flu and COVID that's hitting early this year, the school year is starting off, I think, on a pretty good note. And I was looking at the Swiss data just Friday and today, and I think back to where we were at this point compared to where we're at right now, compared to where we were at last year. Last year we were at 12 referrals, 11 minor, 1 major. Or sorry, let's back up. This year we are at 12 referrals coming into week 3 here. 11 of those are minor referrals. We have a first major referral today. And like 5 of those referrals are tardies, and the rest are just kind of some classroom stuff. And I look back to last year's data, using our Swiss data, and at this point last year, we're at 27 minor referrals and 4 major referrals. And it's a rough start of the school year last year. But I think we approach the school year differently. And I think a big part of that is the work that our MTSS team has done. And to start the school year, we entered it doing it differently. We started the first 2 days of the school year, spent 2 mornings taking our whole school and walking them through what we have these expectations from from hallways, cafeteria, assemblies, playground, gym, locker rooms, etc. We had a 2-day rotation where K-12, we took all the kids around and we went over. The MTSS team put together the lesson plans and put together the schedule, and we took all the kids around to each of those areas and we just walked them through what our expectations are. And I think I showed that board meeting that these are expectations that didn't just come from the MTSS team and staff, but also came from students last year and the work that our team did. And it was student voice, and so this is, they're part of this. And so each area has these posters, these animated posters, and they're up throughout the school in certain areas. And I think that doing that, we're trying to get everybody on the same page, same language, and then the same understanding that no matter what grade you're in, wherever you go, we're all doing the same thing. And I think that has played a huge role into the way the school year has started. And I think we can see the difference. And Corey and I talked about this the last couple of days. And so I like the way the school year has started, and we're going to continue that. Our teachers are out the gate are much more on top of things, behaviors in their classrooms and their visibility in the hallways during passing time. And so I just think there's just a different feel going into this year, which really contributed to, I think, our climate and culture right now. Again, not perfect, but much better than last year. So we're excited to see that progress, and it's just going to get better because we're going to stay on top of it. And so we talked about the systems, that we're implementing, and we want to implement these things so that we can look at, our data, and this is what's helping us do what we're doing, right? And so I think we're seeing the effects of it. And again, it's just jumping on the behaviors early, communicating with home. We've already had some meetings with some parents, really good meetings, and students have responded already from various different things that are happening. But again, minor, not anything major. So it's going good. So I like where we're at, and I'm just going to continue moving that forward. And then STAR, we've talked about STAR. We have now started our STAR testing. Our window is open because we have talked about wanting to bring data in around our academics. So this last week, our window opened. It'll be open until September 30th. So we'll have a first round of STAR testing done, K-12, the math and reading, so that going into October's board meeting, then we can say, hey, this is where we're at right now. So teachers are already starting in their classrooms. They're starting the testing from elementary to middle school and high school. Teachers are now starting their testing. So we're excited to see where that's at in a few weeks ahead. And then evaluations, I'm already, this year jumping on evaluations already with our teachers and classified. Last year, just with the busyness of last year and being new and just some challenges of last year, those got off late. But this year, I'm already starting to get those things going, scheduled and jump on it early. So I'm excited to just get that done. And then our new staff, we have some new staff. We have 3 new staff this year, and you know who they are. They've been introduced, and they're adjusting well with our preschool promise, with our 2 staff members in there doing very well. And the new band director, Noah Gardner, is also doing well. So it's just a good start to the school year. I mean, we're only 3 weeks in, but I think we're pleased with where we're at.
So with last year's data now matching up pretty close to this year's data, I'm assuming even like last year, it was even like kind of a handful of kids that were kind of the same routine. Does it seem like it's kind of the same group issues, or is it kind of? I'm just wondering how do we zero in and focus on those distractions, right?
Because that data is telling us exactly who it is, and it's telling us exactly what those behaviors are. And it really is. Are you asking if it's around the same group?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, without knowing who. I mean, but yeah, I'm just wondering if usually it's the same.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
To last year.
And we just had part of that conversation also about the paper trail. So when people are filing things in, making sure teachers are putting stuff in there. So therefore we can have those conversations. In fact, you and I had that one earlier today, a few hours ago, about, here's a pattern. We're already seeing a pattern. We're already on day, 10?
Yeah.
And so
That's what I was wondering, how quickly that pattern was going to.
well, but also as you mentioned, bringing families in as well. At that point, those patterns aren't taking like last year, a month or 2 months to figure out. We already have them.
Yeah. Let's go for this year.
Good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brings us to 7.0 old business. Second reading on 7.1 policies. Was there some discussion on? I heard Jan had a couple questions, but I think they were resolved. Huh?
Yeah.
Some of those.
Technical changes.
I'll say all of these, the policy updates for the old business, those are all recommendations from OSBA. None of the new business, those are my recommendations, but old business, that's the OSBA's recommendations.
If there is no discussion on that, we can have a motion to adopt policies in 7.1. Well, sorry, we'll have to list the policies in 7.1, but
Well, given that these are all kind of mandatory, coming down from above.
Just say, I'll just
I
mention
would move we accept the remaining
required.
policy updates in 8.1. Do we?
we'll need to at least read the policies.
Okay. So my motion is to approve the policy. Actually, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Go with my agenda. Okay. EBBB, injury illness reports. Policy EFAA, district nutrition and food services. Policy EFAA-AR, reimbursable meal and milk programs. Policy GBNAB/JHFE, suspected abuse of a child reporting requirements. Policy GBNAB/JHFE-AR1, reporting suspected abuse of a child. Policy GCDA/GDDA, criminal records checks and fingerprinting. This will be deleted. Policy GCDA/GDDA-AR, criminal records checks and fingerprinting. Policy IGBAF-AR, Special Education Individualized Education Program, IEP. Policy IGBAG, Special Education Procedural Safeguards. Policy JGAB, Use of Restraint or Seclusion. Policy JGAB-AR, Use of Restraint or Seclusion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jan. Brings us to new business. Policies IKE, promotion and retention of students. IKE-AR, promotion and retention of students. There's two for the same.
Let me see
And,
here.
policy JHCCF. Headlights.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a delete. Let's delete that policy.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And then replacing it with JHCCF-AR and delete JHCCF.
And I'm just
So,
going to throw in there for the first one, the IKE, promotion and retention of students. You can see I moved some things around. I did put stuff in red a little bit for this document. The biggest change I honestly did, I rearranged some of the verbiage to align with other districts a little bit, but the biggest one that I put in there was the, make sure I get this correctly here. In the old language, it talks about students in promotion. When you advance a student to another grade level, that the ultimate decision is down to the family, and they make that determination, even if the district is in disagreement. And that's current policy right now. And so if the district is in disagreement, then we go forth with the team that had made that decision, and we provide the paperwork to the family stating that, okay, we're going to move your child on to the next grade level, but the district did disagree for all these different reasons. And I would like to change that so it is a termination of the school administration makes that ultimate decision for promotion. That families don't make that decision to move a kid on, even at the professional opinion of all the staff members of the district to do so. So that's the biggest change for at least the IKE, and then the IKE/AR. We've never had that before. So that is directly from OSBA that I did take that. And that is basically the retention of students, so it's well defined. So that's those two. And then the other one is, I could be mispronouncing this pediculosis. I'm giving it a stab here. Head lice. And so you can see our policy was readopted almost a decade ago, 2015. And so you can see I have it, at least thank you for putting the words delete on it. And it talks about exclusion practices. And by the state of Oregon, that is no longer allowed. You cannot exclude kids for head lice. So I put a very much more abbreviated version of what that looks like, along with an updated AR. Excuse me, excuse me. I did not update the AR. I asked for it to be deleted because there is nothing we can do other than follow suit with the guidance from ODE and the Oregon Health Department Authority. Excuse me. And so I have that information. It should be on our website. If not, I'll double check with Abby to make sure it's on there. And information did go home to families as well. If you received a packet, kind of a health packet from the district, but we cannot exclude kids. We can, depending on the situation, we can have a teacher notify the office and very discreetly have a kid come down, and we can have the nurse or administrator, that's what's in our board policy, take a look and see if there is lice on the child. And at that point, make a call home to let them know what's going on, provide information, how they can find resources and information about it, and then talk with the child also about how to be more mindful about their belongings and whatnot when they're in the classroom setting with other kids and coats and all those things. And then that child goes back into class. And then we follow suit, obviously, with the nurse and potentially the counselor to be in conversation with the family to help provide whatever resources we can within the realms of what we're legally allowed to do. So that's currently the maneuver that we have. That's from OD and the Oregon Health Authority of how that
When
process
did that
goes.
change? Do you know?
It's been a number of years.
Yeah.
It's been I'm thinking pre-pandemic. And since I've been in the chair, I can hear the Clatsop County Health Department telling me you cannot exclude, because our first time I encountered that as superintendent, I was going through board policy, and she wasn't yelling at me, but she was very loud on the phone. You cannot exclude kids, and she kept telling me, "You're not excluding them. You're not excluding them." I'm like, okay. Despite what board. No. Yeah.
Does the school health or does health-based school health center provide any of the products used to treat it?
We've been in communication with them. They can provide, and I know Martha's jumped in on some moments of some of these things. They can provide resources to help get the family what they need.
Gotcha.
And the district is not supposed to be providing, well, for anything, specific chemicals, any of that kind of stuff. So trying to sit there and provide them resources. I want to be careful how I phrase some things, but provide resources to help them out.
All right.
And that means also all the way through transportation, whatever, to help these families get what they need to help their kids.
So we're deleting every policy regarding that.
Correct, and adding only this. Yep, that's all.
Is there a screen? Do you do regular screening?
It's a practice again through the Oregon Health Authority. You do not. It's not a good practice to do at all. Only if you suspect something's. Yeah. And if you get a certain amount of reports, I have to go back and look at the Oregon Health Authority. But if there's so many cases coming through, then we start doing a little bit more advanced work with the district and communications, and whether we have a class being, heads looked at in classes for all the kids, so we know if we have an outbreak or not. But those again are things that we take them as they come on a case by case basis. And so I did send information out to the community in a mailing, a number of health things that are on there. And basically that's just without saying out loud, just be mindful when you get back into school. That's partly what sometimes you encounter when you're in schools. And I want to get that out there very early. So, and these don't need to be passed tonight. I just wanted to make sure I explained it before you guys went home today.
Okay, 9.0 superintendent report.
Okay, and George, you can jump in on any of these also if you want. So we are how many days? 10, 11 days in so far with no cell phones, and
Are they dying?
no, actually, no. I mean, I think anyone that's been working in the district, even within the room, there's been minimal, if anything, maybe just a couple moments of whatnot, but no.
So nobody's having.
No, I mean,
Brown bag panic attacks and everything.
I've had,
Teachers are doing okay.
Yeah, exactly.
so, and I'm going to give you quite a bit here, but even from community perspective, I wasn't sure what we're going to be hearing from the community, and I haven't been knocking on anything made of wood yet. And I think you all know, as a superintendent, I very much support, obviously, this aspect of it, but not sure what we're going to get feedback from the community. If anything, it's been what kind of the board had talked about, where more and more are actually supportive of this. And I think I have a good handle of at least most of our community members, and everybody has different viewpoints. I respect that. But those that might have a different perspective on some things that I was predicting might come towards the district hasn't happened. Other than just a couple of questions over the phone and whatnot, that's been it. And we've had a few reminders for some students, sometimes very specific students, about the lunchtime. That's where we may see them sometimes. But in classrooms, overall, I haven't heard too much. We do need to re-articulate again just the consistency that the beginning of the day when kids come in from the building, that the phones are not present, not after breakfast, those kind of things. In terms of staff-wise, being diligent again, just making sure staff are hearing the consistent message, the expectation. Do we have some lapses? I hear things every once in a while, a few things, but nothing that's got my brain completely panicked about anything at all. George and Abby and Mr. Scott and Abby Hines and myself had a meeting this morning with Yonder, and not quite sure when we're going to get these things implemented. And I didn't put this in the board packet because we didn't have that discussion until today, specifically about student phone policy and guidelines. And this is a requirement. And it looks different for every district, but the requirement by Yonder organization. And actually, I can pass it on to each one of you guys. You can see these here. Here we go. And at least you might need this. But the reason I don't want this out there at the moment is because this isn't finalized, and I do not want our families, and I don't want this out because it's not finalized until about a week from now. But this basically talks about the daily process of what's going to happen when students arrive, whether they'll turn their phone on airplane mode or just have them turn them off. They're going to place their phones on a table. We're going to be more explicit in this document, so it's just a rough draft right now. But students will put their phone on the cafeteria table with the Yonder pouches, and we're going to walk through with the kids and the families how we're going to check these pouches out. And I already have a team lined out, and a little graphic that I had to send to Yonder about who and what this is going to look like. So staff members within the cafeteria will monitor specific tables. Kids will put the phone here, the Yonder pouch there, and at a very specific time, okay, here we go. Time to put your phones in your pouches. Kids put their phones in their pouches and they close them. As simple as that. Now, there'll be obviously certain circumstances that the Yonder companies already talked to us about, such as burner phones, other things that might go in there, things that aren't actually phones. So we need to have eyes on the kids when they're putting their stuff in there. Well, we have some that are defiant. I think that's the word I want to say. Reluctant. Let me change it. Reluctant to put their phones in these things. And we go through those aspects also. We talk about the end of the day, we have 18 unlocking mechanisms. No way are we using all 18 of them. We just want to be able to store some in case they damage over the years or whatnot. I don't see this being a forever for the district. I think this is just going to kind of dwindle down until we just don't do it because we just don't do cell phones here. So we don't need all this.
Once it gets to be a routine and a practice, I think it's going to be fine.
Well, I even told Mr. Scott, I'm at the point where, boy, I feel like it's going fairly decent now. When we throw this in, is that going to cause a hiccup? But I don't think so. I think this is just further going to reinforce some of this.
They know that we're not the only school district doing it.
Oh, I know they know that. Oh, yeah, they know that.
It's not like, well, you're just picking on me. No, you're not. It's everybody's doing it.
We can't, if Seaside, Astoria, and I know the others are talking about it, Warrenton right now. And violations, we talk about that. We talk about repercussions, so parent pickup. If we need to have them pick up the phone, detentions and school suspension. I really don't want to have kids suspended because of cell phones out of the district. Community service also was an aspect we talked about. If need be, we go to the student code of conduct. And I mentioned the Yonder representative today that hopefully we don't get that far. I keep thinking of the one conversation I had on the phone. One of the questions was, what if my child refuses to put these, phone in the pouch? Just refuses, doesn't want to do it. And I said, well, we won't get to that point because this is a team, as a family, and as a district, we're not going to get that far. We're going to work together to make this process what it needs to be. What I also thought to myself is if we need to go down the student code of conduct, we'll do so. Because I think if we fracture with the message that we're trying to send, which is academics, my voice on my own head thinking this, if academics aren't number one, then we're not on the same page. And I think, like the Yonder representative said, social, emotional, those aspects of it, I think they need to come first. And I said to Mr. Scott today, all these behaviors that we're not seeing that we saw last year, I can't say they are or not for sure, but we don't have any phones. They're not texting each other. And we're not seeing it. And you said you're in the cafeteria. They're all talking, laughing, communicating with each other.
Through there today, just walking around school, didn't pop in. But no matter where I was at today, whether I was in a classroom, hallway, didn't see any phones out. But what got me today at lunch was for today anyway, didn't see a single phone and kids actually engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're
Actually
engaging,
talking to each other.
having fun, laughing. Yeah, it was neat to see that. I'm like, this is what we want, right? And so it was good to see that.
Or the one student today that was, we we're having some discussions with the student for one of the Swiss things that we are talking about earlier. And I just happened to notice that the student, I leaned over and noticed that they had their cell phone out. And I walked over and they could see my shadow coming. And through my shadow, the phone went away. And I just said, office phone. They just got up quietly. That was it. It was it. No argument. Damage, we also have a $30 fee for replacement pouch. So the Yondr organization does provide a certain amount of extra Yondr pouches in replacement, and we give examples, and this will go out to families as well. Forgotten pouches, same thing. We've got a system in place that will have a sign for our kids on how that works in the district. So this will be a little bit more beefed up per se as we go forward, and then this will be shared out with staff and community also with their letters next week. And then our students will also get introduction in their first period classes. And currently, September 30th is the start date. I was not expecting it to be that quick, but as of today, I was told September 30th. And that's the date that they either told us September 30th or October 1st. And I looked at you on the Zoom screen and went, I thought we had another couple more weeks, but we'll make it work. So that's the plan. So I don't know if you have any questions, but currently I was expecting a lot more pushback, and I the rest of the staff I think feel the same way. So, and Mr. Ray, thank you by the way, because you were one name that I heard going through with one of the students. Yeah, Mr. Ray told me to put my phone away. So, so just word of mouth spreads a little bit. Yeah. So anybody have any questions about?
So this company's really pretty on top of all this.
Oh, they will.
They're really.
Well, what I like about this is their name means everything to them.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to use their product, you're going to use it right.
Because the same product Seaside and Astoria uses.
Because imagine if they didn't do this and it didn't work, well, there's no telling why it didn't work. Was it a local level of not working, or was it because of the product? And so if you're a company, you don't want your product being smashed by a district.
These guys are nationwide. I mean,
Worldwide now,
Really?
but they're based out of California. Yep.
I think majority of the school districts across the nation that are doing this, 80%, I think majority of them.
I can't find one that's not using this company.
Where they've been around for 10 years.
I
I
think-
think this is our 10th year. But I didn't know that until recently. No meetings and.
This district's been using this quite a while, yeah.
So besides just a pouch, pardon my ignorance here. So this company Yondr, do they control when it's unlocked? Is
No,
that what-
no.
how-
It's magnetic, so it closes on its own.
okay.
And then if they want to unlock, there's a little circular thing, and you sit there and you press it against it, and it opens it right up. So we're in charge of unlocking those things. And that's the end of the day. I have it scheduled for, I can't remember, 1 in the elementary, 2 in the high school, middle school. Christy's got 1 or 2. We've got an EA that'll come up and grab one from the office to have it out there by the buses. And then we're storing the rest over here in the tech room. And so they're all lined up. Kids will have avenues that will be explained where they're going to go to get them unlocked.
And it's quick.
Mhm.
It's not a time consuming thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you walk up, in a matter of 1 second, it's unlocked. And they're going to have
Are they like subscription based?
Yeah.
Or are they?
No, I thought it was originally, because I was reading about it, that was a leasing concept, but no, we just outright purchased them.
So you purchase it? Okay.
And I used, just so it's public, I think I mentioned last time before as well, these are part of our ESSER funds, which are going to be, they're COVID relief funds, so they're going to be expiring here at the end of the month anyways. So they're good to use for this aspect of it, but at the same time, I think we ordered 160, 65, somewhere around there. So it'll be extra to keep going through this year. My hope is 1, 2, 3 years with them, and then say we're done. Still cell phone free, but we're phone and smart
I feel like
technology
you're
free.
very optimistic there, but okay. I hope you get. The problem is you have new kids coming in all the time, right?
Yeah,
You have the same ones forever.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
But again,
I think it'll be a standard before too long.
the culture sets in. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how many kids are, put them in the bags and don't have a phone all of a sudden, and
But if
you'll
they're
know
just-
real quick, I guess, on day one on how it's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're having pretty good success right now without the pouches. I can't see that the pouch is gonna make that much difference, other than that it really is put away.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
And the idea by turning them off and putting them airplane mode is we're not having all the sounds coming through the phones all the time.
That's good news.
It's good.
It really is. I like the idea. Anytime you place additional levels of enforcement on a newly released policy, I think, just my kind of look at it is, a school can say, yeah, no cell phones, right? The kid in the back of my brain says, they'll be back. Right, they'll slough off. They'll loosen up on the policy and deal with it. But once they see additional levels of enforcement put in place, I think that's going to just seal the whole. Okay, I get it. They're not going to back off of this. Cell phones are done. So you just
I
accept.
feel like we take a hard line to begin with. It's going to be, we're going to know, right? It's, I don't know. I mean, my kids are pretty good about pushing the limits, so they get a little bit of a, I'm sure most are.
One of the conversations they had in the public at one point in the last 3 weeks or so, and I'm going to just address this because I want the district to realize how far I think we've come so far with some of these things is, from a middle school perspective, my daughter's going to be there in about a year. The comment is sometimes it's ran like a prison sometimes, everything's so restrictive. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, I get that. But at the same time, to have procedures and processes to keep these kids safe and to keep the district flowing, so we're not having all these incidences that we've been having for a number of years. It's a change of culture, and the freedom is actually, I think, even more than has ever been there. It's a safe environment, and we're not here to do any of this to anybody at all. So I think the norm is going to be set again as we continue, as you said, double down with expectations. And I don't know about you, but I sense the staff is we're all here. We are pushing for it instead of some over here and some over there and someone hiding behind the bushes up there. So,
Do we need these back?
no, I mean, if you're not, you're going to get another copy that's going to be completely different.
I don't understand.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, 9.2, Board Superintendent Operating Agreement meeting update.
Okay, so Vincent Adams from OSBA, Oregon School Board Association. We're trying to lock down some dates, but we're not having any luck. He said there's no way we can do a board superintendent operating agreement without all 5 board members. He said it'd be completely wasted time. I don't have a date for everybody, so I don't know if this is appropriate time to do this. We had looked at maybe the 23rd or the 27th, and I think I proposed about 5 different dates to the board. Ultimately, he can't do the 23rd early in the week, and so I've been trying to get maybe the end of that week, but I can't get everybody in, and I still don't have a response from one other board members at this moment. So we're going to have to push it in October. So I don't know if there's any no dates at all that anybody might have for the board. Otherwise, I'm going to reach out to Vincent tomorrow and just say, could we do something in the first couple of weeks of October? But I need to get this on the agenda with him. So if I send something out tomorrow with a bunch of dates, let me know as soon as you can what it is so I can get that booked with him, because he needs to schedule fairly quickly in advance. So, okay.
I don't know if you guys use any type of calendars for staffing but I don't know if that'd be something that the board should.
We have the district calendar.
Yeah, but I've used like for other boards like it's called Time Tree or something along those lines. There's a bunch of different ones out there, but you can basically send the information to the board members what dates and times work.
Okay.
It might be something we want to look at it down the road.
Could be something like a Google.
That way you're not. Yeah, Google.
A Google poll or whatever or something. I could send out a simple Google, whatever, it lists all the dates and just click on the ones you're able to do so. And it just gives me real time information. You just click on it. I could do that.
I think that Google, you should ask Abby, because I think Google has like one of those things that's like, I don't remember what it's called, but I don't know what you're available to work.
Okay.
There's a lot of Google Meets, and you can set up. Do you guys use Microsoft or like on?
We're all everything's Google here. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, there's lots of free app things if we're having a hard time getting everybody on the same page.
Okay. I'll just put app, but I'll put,
I'll share the one I have with you that we use too.
okay. Okay.
But if everybody doesn't do it, then it doesn't do a lot of good. So I'm pretty open. I won't try to make it work.
Okay.
It's gonna be an online meeting, right?
It would be an online, yes. Yep.
So we should,
Opens up.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the in-person stuff is done until maybe the end of the year. We might wrap up the end of the year with one in person. Everything's virtual at this point.
Did he have a time, like an hour, or just?
I think he said a couple hours at most. So what I'll send like a Google poll or something out there. Okay.
Okay, 9.3 superintendent evaluation goals.
So I know we talked about moving forward with items and whatnot. So I'm gonna throw these at you guys one more time here. Oops, Elise, sorry.
Goals, stay funded.
Yeah, you're gonna notice one of them here. So I did 3 specific goals last year. I'm gonna do 3 again this year. So goal number 1, plan for upcoming and ongoing budget realities. I don't know how else to express that, including gathering staff, student, and stakeholder input, while at the same time advocating at the state level for sustainable and adequate funding. And I'm already doing that already with our governor's office, which you're going to hear from me in just a moment. And I won't stop doing that. And if we are going into the state school funding, if that's where things end up, you'll see me on the forefront as often as I can to validate or push as hard as we can with the state to provide more funding for schools. We've never done this before, at least in my 18 years in the district. We never relied on it before. This also includes for me, and I didn't bullet point it, but bringing in Vincent Adams, talking with OSBA, talking with Northwest Regional, some of the finance departments, and having some discussions about looking at our finances and what we have currently this year, and if we need to make some potential reductions, where and how can that look outside of just my own eyes and business management eyes and other stakeholders board as well. So those times where I've talked to you before about when and if we need to do that, we're here. We're already here. So I need to start going down that road. I mentioned to Tammy, after September gets out of the way here, I'm jumping in. Even though we've got a lot still out there in the world of Jewel trying to figure out how this is going to work, whether we have lawsuit stuff going on, or, I'll talk more about that in a moment. Goal number 2, increase organizational effectiveness, efficiency, and accountability within the district. Includes reviewing and updating board policies and administrative regulations. So I already do that, but that's when, at least provides me with a nice update list from OSBA. But I want something a little bit more productive for the district in terms of making sure that we look at these policies on an annual basis. I don't mean all of them, but if you look at them, I'm pointing to them on my screen that's not here, but you have like students, you have administration, you have district, all the different categories where potentially we look at them as a group. As a board and as administration, and we look at them together once a year, just one of the categories. Does that make sense? And so, and then every year, so after about every 5-6 years, we're going back and redoing them on top of what I'm already doing. And of course, some of these policies you're seeing changes because I come across them as we're going through district items. And I'm realizing, oh boy, this needs to be updated on top of everything else we're doing. So that's one area I want to see some improvement. Updating, implementing employee and district handbooks. So you'll see a field trip handbook coming through. I want to make sure everything is tight in the district and well spelled out. We have our code of conduct book, which is still from last year. We have our updates. I need to get those into place so Abby can get them posted. We do not have a staff handbook. We haven't had one for 2000. I'm looking at Tammy because she and I have talked about that. And I mentioned Mr. Scott that I'm working on a staff handbook right now. And my mindset, it doesn't have to be ready for August because goodness gracious, we're building a lot here. right? When I tell you we're building multiple systems, when I first took this position over, I meant that, and we're uncovering more things that need to be updated. And the continued implementation of teacher and classified eval systems. So I know you're working heavily with the teachers. I want to continue working more towards the classified side now, and a little bit more in depth with that one. And then review and look for better efficiencies and procedures in all of the district departments. And that includes everything from kitchen to transportation to the big one in my mind, which is maintenance. That's a big one on my list here. And then goal 3, work collaboratively. This is references just what we just talked about a moment ago. Work collaboratively with the school board to update and sign. And I said update, but whether we have it or not, I want to make sure it's in writing that we're going to be doing something here. Superintendent board operating agreements. This includes measuring what is in place, working with OSBA to review, create the operating agreements with the school board, and leading to a document that will help guide the district with their goal setting for the future. And so what I'm trying to do is leave you with a platform that as soon as you're done with my evaluation for this year, we're already moving into the next round. And that includes the board and the superintendent getting together and talking about the goals for the future of the district with the data that's coming through from STAR and local agency, local education agency data from the teachers, and our Swiss data for behaviors, and also what's going on with finances. So we can all have a good set relationship on how to do this. I've never seen it in my time here in the district, when I've been sitting in that gentleman's spot for the union for over a decade. So those are my 3 goals for this year.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. I'd like to see maybe could you put together part of a small subcommittee to work on some of these, to review and efficiencies, procedures throughout the departments? And it might be kind of nice to have an internal committee that's giving feedback, and then they can give you a report that we could in turn report to us on different eyes on something maybe.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay. And the budget one also for goal number 1, same thing there. I want to make sure I put together some voices outside of mine for sure.
Okay. Fun one, 9.4 HCP update.
Oops. Yes, we're still here. Okay, HCP update. So I'm gonna give you as much information as I'm able to provide. And I know you had asked about this, and I haven't done this yet, so I need to forward what I'm going to talk about. So there's an article out there in the paper put out by I want to make sure I say it correctly, the Oregon Capital Chronicle. And I know you've reached out to me about it also. And it's been all over in the Salem paper. It's been the Historian. And this one specifically says, tiny Oregon school district slated to lose timber revenues, spending big on legal challenge. And so I went forth and we did answer some questions from reporters, and I wanted to make sure, I think it's our obligation to continue to answer what we're able to answer. And so I did provide some information. The article itself doesn't make us look great, if I'm being honest with you. How honest can I be in a public session? I feel sometimes we are one of very few in the whole state of Oregon that is going to be hit like this based off of a decision by the state of Oregon. We have managed our funds, I like to think, very responsibly over the years for quite some time. I have some support also from another board member from a different school district sitting here talking with me just about an hour before this meeting about how much they appreciate how we have spent our funds over the years within this community. And so the bulk of this article does talk about our attorney and what we spend on our attorney fees for the district. And basically the article talks about, is it a proper use of our public funds to do so? And a couple things I expressed, I full-heartedly believe, yes, it is, because as of one of our last recourses, I kind of use the phrase bet the farm kind of scenario on this one, where we could lose millions and millions of dollars over many, many years here to do something that we've never experienced before. And the state equalization formula will come into place, but that's where people think, oh, okay, they're going to be fine. And it's not that simple. But for the average Joe, as you would say, when they hear that, oh, they're going to be fine. And that's not all of the cases. I want to bring to your attention a couple of these things here So representatives of ODF, or Department of Forestry, and the Governor Kotek's office told the Capital Chronicle via email that they do not have any projections yet to show potential funding losses for individual school districts. And I can say that, some of us have seen some numbers flying through. I'm not presenting them because the actual validation of where that source came from is still up in the air. But if the numbers are correct, as we've been stating, it's daunting to look at. What else did I say here? I circled this. So I might be butchering the name. I apologize. Anka Matika, who's a spokesperson for Kotek, said in an email that the plan is projected to decrease annual timber revenue to Oregon's 14 timber counties by about 23%, and that any school district that loses funding because of this would be compensated under the state education funding equalization formula. And that's where people start, again, getting more relaxed with the shoulders, going, oh, they're going to be fine. And I want to reiterate one more time, that's not necessarily the case. Reported by this reporter who did not ask these questions that our K-12 school has 124 students, 15 teachers, 6 educational assistants, a counselor, and 2 administrators. And I want to make sure that we're aware that that's not even half of our employees. That we have 1 tech, 19 teachers, 7 EAs, 1 counselor, 1 librarian, a specialist there, cafeteria 2, maintenance 4, 2 admin, central office, we've got 4, transportation 4. So we have 45 employees, and not the 24, so 23 that the individual put on here. And when you have a budget, as it says, of $4.3 million, with potential to bring that down to a state high, this is where we're seeing with some discussions that the state could bring in 3.6. And again, that's at 185 million board feet per year. And that's the maximum ceiling that these numbers that I'm looking at are based off of. And if between the discussions that a few of us have had over, with our county commissioners and whatnot, that seems incredibly optimistic. And I was throwing numbers out there about upper 2.8 or so million.
What's our enrollment this year?
Well, we've had a number of students still moving and transferring in and out of districts. So Christy mentioned, I don't think it's 100. I think it's around 135.
Oh, so we're up a little bit.
Yeah, it's up a little bit from last year. Yeah. So that frustrates me a little bit because let's see. So currently, with what's being done with the HCP, that's about a 20% decrease from the previous decade's average of 225 million board feet. When Mr. Womack and myself first went down this adventure at a meeting in Astoria, when we were all stunned that was potentially the lowest of low lows, and then only to find out, no, folks, this is going to go lower. And that's when we saw the 185. And even at this moment, if everything goes through as beautifully as they're predicting, I don't think that ceiling is going to get hit. I really don't think it will be. And the last part, it states in here that I said the district does not have a ceiling for spending on this case. I just basically said I did not state that. I never said that we don't have a ceiling. I'm assuming they're taking the bet the farm quote as we're just going to spend whatever we want. So I just want to make sure you're aware that I did not state that portion of it. So the press, that's what it is. It is what it is. You live in my opinion, you live in a world where the press will report what they want to report, independent on the organization, how they want to report it. I feel like we do a damn good job of what we do here in the district. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock into the way that came across. Let me put it that way.
Well, what really got me in there is she's chastising us because we have money.
Yep.
And we have to be very good clear upon it.
Well, one of them is, district has a $20 million investment fund that is paying for future capital improvements, with about $12 million of that for infrastructure. Peterson said he did not say what the other $8 million is for. And we expressed that, it was appropriated, that $20 million, whatever, that is our funds. We do not have a hidden $8 million. I'll say it very publicly to the camera here. We do not have an extra $8 million in hiding anywhere. We don't. That is what we have left over from the state funds that we use for our capital projects. I don't believe we could pass a bond here in the district. I know we couldn't pass a bond here in the district. So those are what we've been able to hold on to, which is why we have what we're about to, we're about to keep going here for so long in the district.
Is it appropriate to write a letter to the editor to rebut some of that?
Mm-hmm.
I would think the Daily Astorian should want to pick up the rebuttal on that.
I can reach out to, I know a reporter, let me put it that way.
I would think it would be good to at least get some things to,
Clarify.
stand corrected and
Okay.
fact checked.
I can reach out to Olivia Palmer. She's the contact who does all that stuff. Yep. And then since that came out and another meeting prior to that one as well, I was not privy to this until Leanne Thompson, Commissioner Thompson, who was here at the last board meeting, called me the day before the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties meeting. And she said she's going to be heading to a meeting in Astoria, I believe is where she said. I said, what is this for? She said, well, the county, the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties are getting together to vote on the three options that I proposed to you guys last week, which I believe, to remind you, option one was subsidize ODF. Option two was find alternative funding for forest trust land counties. And option three was decouple schools from the state timber revenue formula. And option three is where everyone is pushing this right now, to remove, I'm just going to be blunt, to remove schools from the revenue timber formula and put us on state school fund. And we've had conversations. Once this district is out of that formula, I don't see us getting back in ever again. And then I actually, a reporter from Astoria reached out to me from the Historian and said, could I get a quote from you for this? And I said, after they make the decision, they're going to vote on these three options. And which one and move forward. And I said, no, I'm not going to provide a quote until I've actually heard what's going on and seen it. And I said, I've been on the website. I can't find any agenda. I can't find the announcement of this meeting anywhere. And our attorney couldn't find it either. And the press couldn't find it either. And so ironically, I received the agenda 5 minutes after the meeting started from the press saying, by the way, this turns out it is a public meeting. So I tuned in. It was over. It's only supposed to be a couple hours, but I tuned in. It was over 3.5 hours long, and it went on and on. So I will give you a brief synopsis of this, so you know where we're at currently as of last Thursday. So Brandon Persinger, who is the Council of Forest Trust Land County's executive director, after the final vote was given through, we'll begin working with the governor's office to draft a legislative concept aimed at addressing financial impacts of the state's habitat conservation plan. So I wanted to keep you apprised. There's our lawsuit going on right now, and then there's this also going on, which I'm now, as from the district lead, I'm now involved with both sides. So I'm dealing with the lawsuit, and I'm dealing with this potential legislative concept along with the governor's office. So these are two split things that are very much related and have a great impact on the district. And before I say any more about the lawsuit, because I can't, there is no movement currently. I will say there's things that I'm doing behind the scenes, but I can't express it at the moment. But there is currently no movement with the lawsuit. The judge has provided no information on his ruling yet. So you'll be the first to hear from me through email once I have something. So over the past year, 5 representatives from the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties have met regularly with Governor Tina Kotek's office to navigate anticipated funding shortfalls resulting from the Habitat Conservation Plan. And at the last board meeting I mentioned to you, I went down to the state library with only one other superintendent. Only 2 superintendents in the state of Oregon were invited to this meeting. And that's where I expressed some of our frustrations that the districts greatly impacted, 4 of them in the state of Oregon, were not involved in roughly a year's worth of discussions. And I came back in reference to you that it was apparent that the state school funding aspect of it with our very own state didn't seem to understand how that process worked. Through this meeting, I don't know how to say this other than how I personally believe this looks. Those conversations seem to have been forgotten at the state library, because what I'm hearing in this is exactly what was proposed to us in that room. And after, as I mentioned before, a 2-hour meeting, us coming out of there saying, we need to, this isn't going to work. We're back to where we were through this aspect. So I didn't print them off. They had more than a dozen potential solutions back in June. The governor's office asked the council to choose between 3. And quote, for many individuals, the 3 options that we were to pick on were the worst of the 12 or 15 options. So now we're delineated to pick 3 options that really don't do us any good. The ones I just mentioned to you a minute ago, with the option that the district is taking, which is the 4th option, which is we don't want any of these options, period. And that we want our county commissioners to support, obviously the counties, we get that. It's a very political aspect right now, but support the counties and support your school districts as best as possible. And it's a fine line. I get that through my conversations. So let's see, Brandon Persinger is going to begin collaboratively drafting a legislative concept with the governor's office. I want to make sure I don't repeat myself. The other thing that came from that meeting is some frustrations with the committee that was on that meeting. They felt that the governor's office was going to be sponsoring this bill. And it's a public meeting, so I can say this. One of the members said, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, but she said, I've had conversations and realized at this point that the governor's office is saying that they do not want to sponsor this bill, that they want it to be pushed through by, I get it mixed up with the verbiage, with the Oregon Trust, the Trust Land Committee there. They want them to sponsor the bill and put it together. At what point they started having conversations saying, well, how do we expect a bill to get through in the long session if it does not have the governor's full attention on it, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of frustration around that. So it's in this article, it says, although the governor's office has been facilitating small table discussions with the trust land counties, Persinger said Kotek is not currently planning to sponsor a bill that might emerge from the process. That makes it even more challenging, because what they're trying to propose currently is, and I won't go through it all here, they made it very clear in their proposal. It was it was all over the place. I mean, it was an interesting wild ride of a meeting towards the end. They do not want to go with option 1 and option 2. They made that very clear, but they did not say that they were not going to go for option 3. They didn't say they wanted it. They didn't say they didn't want it. And I can hear one of the commissioners saying, again, in public session, that the governor gave us one thing to do, and it was to pick one of these options. And if we go back and to the governor and show that we did not pick one of these options, then how do you expect any support to be there from the governor with whatever legislative concept they decide to come up with? And so I heard more commissioners saying, we will not support any plans that defund our schools. And that was not universally said, but it was a majority of that was being said in that meeting. So currently, that's where it's at right now, is they're going to be working with the governor's office to put something together. And that's not option 1 or 2, maybe parts of option 3, with the caveat that those 4 school districts, Jewel, number 1 in the whole state of Oregon, followed by Nestucca, Neocani, and Seaside, will have a potentially, this is all legislation that needs to go through and approved in the long session. We'll have a specific potentially granted funding source somewhere that provides extra funds to those 4 school districts to keep them, and I'm doing this on purpose, whole. What that does is that basically asks the district to be going in roughly every 2 years to be asking for these funds every 2 years for the next 70 years. With the idea that other school districts look at that and say, now, wait a minute, why are these 4 school districts getting more money from the state equalization formula than us? And what was expressed in the council meeting was, the state has done this. These 4 districts are going to take the brunt of the whole state of Oregon on their shoulders. That's why this granted fund pot is there. So we got a long ways to go. We have a long ways to go with this currently at the moment. With that said, things have already started. I mean, mills are already shutting down. Sales are already starting to slow down a little bit. You asked a question, and I have to still find out the answer to this one about, with these sales being for 3 years, if a sale takes place next year, I'm trying to be very careful what I say in public. I made it very clear and articulated, we will not pull ourselves out of the timber revenue formula, period. The moment I say that and allow it to happen out in those meetings, if they yank us out of there immediately after this school year, any sale that comes through, are we going to reap the benefits of those funds? If we get another great $3-4 million, $5 million year, or even more in the next couple of years, will we get those? I ain't risking that at all, period. That money goes into our capital, in the large fund that we have. Um,
Well, I do know the bulk of the sales currently in the next 3 years are in our district,
Mhm.
and there's large sales. So, potentially if we stay in that, we can, the next few years, we should, have a little higher than normal averages, I would think.
I agree.
If they choose to, it's very seldom that they don't log them once they've put them up, but
So, um,
But it does happen.
very rarely, like as far as not doing the sale, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty,
Or they approve the sale and then it's not
not very often.
yeah, I gotta say, I don't think
There was a
yeah.
little bit, back Spotted Owl and things that came up in the 80s that shut some sales down and timber market just tanked. But other than that, not very often.
And I'm going to wrap it up with just a couple of comments, specific comments. This is a quote from, I forget, I apologize, from SCAR. I wish I had that for you beforehand. It's Tillamook County Schools. See, Commissioner Aaron SCAR. He says, if we move forward right now, we have a strong no from the schools in our community. We have a strong no from the school organizations at the state level. It has the ability to tear our community fabric apart, which we express very clearly how this is a rooted portion of our community, this district here. If we're not able to find a way to come to a solution where our schools do not feel that their funds are being ripped from them. We're not voting to defund these schools. This is Commissioner Bangs. We're voting for more conversations so that we can solve everybody's problems. She added that she hopes the governor's office can work to support impacted school districts through an option like an additional rural school grant. Again, that's just an idea that's been floating out there. And the governor has not given any indication whether or not that's going to happen. And then the last one, just so you're aware, person to remind the commissioners that their vote doesn't lock the council or the governor's office into crafting a specific bill. The motion that happened last Thursday is an attempt to ensure that the council staff meets the bill drafting deadline and can begin process of drafting language to bring forward on the first day of legislation, which I have written down as a long session. It begins in January of 2025, and it will last up to 160 days. I've also told you that before that I want to continue my the district legislative concept with Representative Javity and Suzanne Weber when we go forward. And they're still very much involved with conversations. So is former Senator Betsy Johnson behind the scenes. But this is a ship that's hard to move. I begin in public session when minds are determined and things are going forward. As much as we have our mindset in that one direction, we have just as much, if not more, pushing on the other side as well. So there's a lot of politics involved with this, and we're doing the absolute best we can right now, firing on all angles to make sure that our voices are heard. So that's all I have for you at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any audience clarification to all that? That's clear as mud. Okay. It'll bring us to board of directors time. Patty, what do you have?
Open house, wonderful. We came, a little disappointed that there weren't more community members. But there again, I don't know if people really knew if you don't have kids in school.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem.
Mhm.
But I went around, saw the classrooms, met the teachers, and I'm very hopeful this school year is just going to be top notch. So I'm really happy about that. I'm glad cell phones are going to work their way out. Work their way to kids just automatically putting it away and not even having to be asked.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good thing. And some kind of community newsletter. The fire department put one out. Wonderful.
Wait.
It went to every box. Well, it used to be box holders, but it came to everybody.
So we have a second one coming out in 2 weeks, I believe.
That
So
will come through the mail.
So if you want me, I'll be honest with you. If I'm trying to save money, it's expensive as heck. It's a lot of money. So I can do that. I didn't do the last time because we're talking a lot of money.
Okay. But if we don't do that, we don't get it. I've never gotten anything that hasn't been through the mail.
I know we're working. I don't know if Abby's got it up there at the moment. Putting them on our website for sure, in our social media, and currently it does go home No, it doesn't go home. Excuse me. It goes to all the emails of everyone currently in the district. But if we want to push it out there to the entire community, I can do that
What if we just do one?
and then put future whatever will be located.
Yes, and if you want to sign up, give us, call or
Mhm.
have a phone number or something where people can send an email address or give people the information for their newsletters will be here at such and such time.
And we can do that.
Yeah, because if, I've not gotten anything,
Okay.
So do you know,
nothing.
do you have an idea on cost? The only reason I
Um,
asked, I think we did it for under $1,000.
Well, I was just going to say
It was like
$700,
$500.
$700. And I'm thinking we're doing currently, this will be our second one already this year, which doubles last year. We're only in the first 3 weeks of school. But if we did that every single time, I'm thinking, that's $10,000 or
No,
whatever.
not even every single time, maybe do it once a quarter. Do one massive one right now to get
Mhm.
everybody involved and see if people are receptive and doing their email and looking around. And then if it's kind of like, well, nobody's doing this, let's put another one out. And so, but I'm not asking for 1 year. I know that's just totally.
I'm looking at Tammy going, oh my goodness, I think we budgeted $10,000. No, but yes, we can do that.
But just kind of, because people don't know. And it's sad because I think we would have more community involvement if people knew.
And I can throw out there, I know we've got a big carnival or not carnival, but a Halloween, thing. We've got the concert. We got Veterans Day stuff. So all that information will all be in there along with parent teacher conferences.
I did ask, because I got one of those newsletters too, and we have had a horrible time trying to figure out how to get them to each box score. And so I did ask Joni how, and she was going to get the information on, because we have the bulk mailing permit. We have that, but I want to know how physically somebody did that.
Well, it did take a couple different trips to the post office. I do know
Which
that.
post office?
Seaside Post Office.
Was it Seaside?
Yeah.
Because we've been told, because I was shocked to get it when it was stapled and it was taped.
Mhm.
Those are like two things they told us we could not do.
Well, there
So
were some issues, but I don't know if they felt bad toward the end. But it was. I actually wanted tape on both sides, but we only had tape on one side. So
maybe that was. I was shocked on the staple too. Because
yeah,
So
I think Corey just drives around at night and puts it
Yeah,
in
yeah.
while he's talking to the governor.
I would be interested to know like the
Yeah.
procedure that happened because it's been a comedy of errors for a
good
few
one.
years, like seriously going to the post office and being told, no, you didn't do it this way. So then we like write it down like, okay, this is how you're telling us to do it. Next time we go and we do it exactly how
Change
they told us to do it. And they're like, no, you did it wrong. So, and
Well,
it's,
we dealt with that too.
okay, well,
But
It
one
was supposed
thing-
to be out 2 weeks earlier than it did, and that's why, because of those issues.
it was beautiful.
But the school used to put out the
It did,
newsletter
and it
here.
went to the HCH 60. That was our route number. And when, years ago, when we put the Blue Jay Chronicle out every month,
Mhm.
it was HCH 60, and then it went to used to be box holders, but it went to everybody.
Yeah.
So, and then I noticed this one said HCH 60.
I noticed that
Oh my
too.
goodness, there it is.
So what we didn't do was Class Canine address, and we didn't deal with Class Canine.
Well, that's
UPS.
half of our problem too.
That is,
because we
yeah.
don't know how to do that.
Right.
Because
We just printed extras out and kind of delivered them, the best we could.
how about if we give you our newsletters? And
Sure. Okay. Ryan will take care of that.
Our chair.
I'll have Kerry Walsh get hold of you because he did directly talk to him. He might have the right answer. One more time, we'll figure it out. We're going to try to do it twice a year, so.
we went down there in person. I've been to that.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Jan, well,
Well, I'm not that surprised the school year sounds like it's gotten off to a nice solid start with positive directions on things, because hearing the forgive me, I forget your acronyms, but the different methodologies you're implementing starting last year and it's carrying over, I expected to see this kind of resulted. I'm very happy that's going on. I wanted to comment that the open house was really a delightful event. I was glad to have the time to come and see the school. I really hadn't looked around the school before, and meet teachers and then just commenting on the HCP update. I find it challenging to grasp it all and follow it all. I'm probably gonna have to put up take a wall in my house and put up pictures and strings and names to figure it out. But I just want to say how much I appreciate your dedication and energy and willingness to just face the unknown challenge, and it keeps changing. So
Continue to change.
yeah. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I appreciate it. It's not hard. It's not easy to go through.
Right.
But you've got to sit there.
The alternative.
You've seen me at one
yeah.
moment where I just
The alternative
it's-
of not facing it is even worse. So
absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
The 2-day expectation period. That's a great idea. Great idea. Clear explanation versus trial by error, I think, is well received throughout any age, right? And the cell phone policy, again, just going with everybody, it's great feedback. It's good to hear that for once everybody, for the most part, is on the same page. I really liked hearing about that. It's great. So, and then thank you for your goals. It's well received. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't have much. It's been busy summer, so sorry for the last 2 meetings not being present. That'd be better for you guys. I don't know.
Ryan did a good job.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. The HCP stuff with Corey, I hope the governor's office does see some light and they can figure out some common ground. I feel like they definitely overlook us quite a bit. We're such a small little spot on their radar. So I think if we don't make a lot of noise and we don't keep fighting the way we're trying to fight, we don't stand a chance. So I hope that I'm optimistic that they're going to come around and figure out a way to make us whole.
That's
At least get by. So that's all I got. I do like that. The school year we're off to essentially the same start, and I hope that we can zero in on things and make it, end up at the end of the year like, man, this is really knocking it out of the park. So thank you. Okay, that'll bring us to 12.0 items for next meeting, which will be new cell phone policy, 12.1, policy update, superintendent evaluation, phase 3.
Could you add on also, what is it, George? Unity Day? Is that where October month Unity Day?
October 19th.
Okay. And that's, again, continuing on with what we're doing with expectations and positive behaviors. You're going to see a new push in probably about 2.5 weeks. You see a lot of color orange in the building for the next month of October. But we'll express more about that.
I know we discussed a little bit on the policies with student transfers,
Yes.
but that would be a good policy for us to at least review and maybe.
And it was going to be in this one. I needed more time to go through the intricacies because there's so many ARs that I want to make sure I have enough time to go through them all.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. All right. 13, motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7:34. We told you 6:30.
Yeah. Well, it's only an hour behind. And the policy you were referencing also just a moment ago, so I had a chance to talk with this gentleman. I was hoping to get the other three, but I am going to reach out to the other three board members tomorrow before I move on it.
I suggest that we wrap all those two decision for, say, rather by student, I'd say by families. You know, so I could say superintendent makes a decision up to the first 5 families to come to this.
No, I have
I see.
a.
Okay, so instead of like specific numbers.
Right, rather than like 5 kids, 4 kids, family. Bring in 4 kids and then not bring in 4 kids.
Really tough.
Family.
Oh, he said something uncomfortable turning it over.
I do.
But I said, I am too. I hope you understand I'm not that guy at all. But I'm also thinking about
Right.
what we're going to do.
And that's why I feel like it should be your decision.
No,
Let's get this
it's
thing
fine. No, I love talking about it.
By families on average, could be 10 kids.
Well,
That go into average family.
and you're going to look at that policy and we'll come together as as a team. We have to make that determination sometime again in March, I believe. No later than March. But I agree with you. I think that'd be better than just saying 10 kids or whatever it is.
Right.
Okay.
But, or look at the last, how many years we have and figure out an average.
Okay. Okay, let me stop the recording here.
So,
Oh, there it is.
did you say we have to record